Hi, everybody. I know you guys have been waiting for this. I said I would do a Facebook Live, and I'm obviously not on Facebook Live, but I am doing a video today, and I'm going to share my story with you guys. I'm going to take a minute here and get in touch with God, say a little prayer, so that way He can set on my heart what I need to say. So that way, at least one person out there that needs to hear the words that come from me today will hopefully hear it. So give me just a second, if you would. Okay. Here we go. Let's start with qualifying myself. My name is Whitney, as most of you know. I am a recovering addict. I have over a year clean now, which is fabulous. I probably should have the exact day, but I don't today. It's February 19th, 2020 is my clean date. I come from an average middle class home. My mom was a secretary at the AEP office in McConnellsville for many, many years. My dad was a police officer in McConnellsville for 26 years, I believe. He was actually the first DARE officer in McConnellsville, if anybody remembers DARE class. I had a pretty typical childhood for the first 6 years. I had parents that I couldn't have asked for better. My mom and dad did the absolute best they could at that time with what they had to work with, you know. Us kids don't come with a book, so they did their best. They were the most loving and caring parents I could have asked for. When I was 6 years old, I had two older brothers. They were 17 and 22 when I was born. Kevin and Craig Sarley. Some of you might know them. At 6 years old, my brother Craig was murdered. His life was taken. Unfortunately, still to this day, there's not been any justice served. And my dad left this world. He, of course, knows now what happened to Craig, but I really hope that he would get to have some peace here on earth before he left, but he didn't. And I'd love to see Kay, Craig's mom, have the ability to get to see justice be served for her son. You know, she suffered for many years without him. Anyways, so at 6 years old, I lost my brother. And something in the house changed then. The dynamics changed. Something changed inside me. My mom said I waited daily for my brother. He didn't live with us, but he would come almost daily after work. He was a security guard at Gould, which is a plant which not there now, but it used to be a plant in McConnellsville. And he would come because even though there was a big age difference, he, for some reason, really liked his little sister. And I guess my mom said that I waited for months every day for Craig to show up. I just didn't understand that he wasn't coming back. At that time, I remember that I started, like, the telltale signs of addiction started around this time. And I've been told that it starts way before the addiction itself even starts. And this started for me with a very extravagant. I started telling like really huge stories, really big lies. For instance, I was in kindergarten and my mom and I always had bath time talks and we'd sing songs and stuff. And I had told her that at school on this day, you know, back when I was in grade school, some of us were in grade school, so the playground equipment was like the big metal slides and the great big metal jungle gyms and, you know, the really unsafe stuff that we had when we were kids. Well, I had told my mom that this kid had fallen off the slide, knocked himself it knocked him unconscious, and that I got down off the slide, and I stayed with him until the squad got there, and the squad came and took him away, and he had to go to the hospital. And I'm telling her this big old story, like I was the hero of the story, never thinking for a second that my mom was going to go to the school the next day when she took me to school, and she was going to go into the office and see how this kid was doing. Well, that's what happened. So that was, I got in trouble for that, rightfully so. I really don't think my mom knew what to think, or my dad, me making up such a story like that. But that's where it all began. And it didn't stop there. It continued. I don't think from that point until I found recovery at 36 years old, which I'm 37 now, that I ever spoke complete truth again. Like, I always had to exaggerate what was going on. I always had to add to it. It's crazy to look at now. And so, childhood otherwise was pretty normal. Like I said, something changed. I don't know what it was that changed and what changed inside of me, but I still had a normal childhood, birthday parties, sleepovers, family time, all that. When I was 10, my mom was having some problems. She realized she was having balance issues and whatnot. And she had gone to a doctor, and they had said it was an ear infection, and she had gone to another, it wasn't clearing up. Anyways, long story short, she ends up going to Columbus and finding out in 1993, I believe it was, when you really didn't hear of this disease, that she had multiple sclerosis. And, I remember her coming home and her telling us about it, and the first thing I asked was, Mom, can you die from this? And she really didn't answer, because I don't think she knew. I don't think she knew. Nobody really knew much about the disease then. And she just told me that, no matter what, just to never let her lose her quality of life. She never wanted to be what she considered a vegetable. That was her words. So from that point on, she had a progressive form, and things went downhill really fast. I didn't know what to think or what to do. My mom went from being a very active, never sat down woman to being in a wheelchair, able to transfer. And then a few more months, it was completely wheelchair bound. And a few more months after that, it just kept declining rapidly. Some things happened with the police station. My dad went from being a police officer to a felon. He went to jail during this time. My mom declined quite rapidly while he was gone, the 2 months he was gone. That was really hard on me too, him being gone. And at this time, Dad had to change his line of work. He became a different person. Dad changed a lot after he went to jail. That was it was very hard, traumatic. I still, to this day, don't even really know 100% what happened. I don't need to know. I just know that it was really hard on our family. By the time I'm 10, 11 years old, I'm not living like a child anymore. I don't get to do normal things that a child gets to do. I'm cooking full course meals 3 times a day. I'm doing laundry. I'm cleaning house. I'm taking care of adult things. And I was okay with this because I had loved and adored my mom so much. I wanted to do for her, so we keep going. A few years later, I'm in 7th grade. Let's back up for a minute. 12 years old, I started drinking. I had met some older kids. I don't really remember how I met them, but they were older than me, and they were into smoking pot and drinking, and they didn't have a whole lot of parental supervision. And maybe at their age, they really didn't need it. I still did. I started telling people I was 16. I started sneaking out. I started having sex. Um, that's where things really started to go haywire. I found that alcohol made me forget what I was feeling. And I remember having a sense of fear a lot. I was always really scared. And I don't know if it was because I was scared of what might happen to my mom. I don't, but I lived with a lot of fear inside, a lot of anxiety maybe. And the alcohol, it took that away. It made me 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And I had a great time. And my dad drank all the time. So I kind of associated if you were going to have fun, no matter what you were doing, you did it with alcohol. So it got me in a lot of trouble. I was probably the poster child for what a parent does not want out of a kid. Dad, the stress of things, he was leaving on the weekends. He hate to put his business out there like this, and God rest his soul. But my dad started the imperfection in my mom, I think, in the relationship, and the fact that maybe she couldn't meet his needs anymore. He began having an affair. And this affair was with just one. He may have slept with multiple women, but there was a ongoing, continuous affair with one woman. And my mom knew this, and this was really hard to see and watch. So there's more added feelings of things I don't know what to do with. You know, I was aware of way too much at way too young. I did some really terrible things when I was left with my mom. We lived just a few blocks from the Parmar gas station. And I would tell my mom that I was going to go to the gas station or to the Dairy Queen to get ice cream. And I would move the phone and things for her to contact anybody else out of her reach while she was in her hospital bed, because by this time she's bedbound. And I would leave, and I might not come back for a day or two, maybe close to 2. And here I am in 7th, 8th grade doing this. Terrible. I mean, just terrible. I didn't realize then as a kid what could have happened to my mom with me doing that. Like, I carried a lot of guilt as an older teenager from that. It was not good. So my 8th grade year, you know, money's getting tight, things are getting difficult. I end up staying home my 8th grade year of school, and I had a couple teachers. I remember one's name was Miss Jordan. A couple of the teachers from M&M Junior High would come over to the house a couple times a week and teach me at home. And I was taking care of Mom full time. Aside from her nurses, she had some really amazing nurses who, a few of them are probably going to be watching this. I'll never forget those ladies and Guy, because she had one male nurse that was phenomenal too. So yeah, my 8th grade year, I was taking care of my mom like a grown adult would be. I remember it was summertime. Mom had been in and out she spent a lot of time in the hospital, and it had been 3 years since she had been out of the hospital on her birthday. And her birthday was on June 10th, and she was out that year in 1998. It was the day or two following her birthday. She was having some difficulties. We were really struggling. She had a problem with kidney stones. And these kidney stones were too dense to blast. So her body was being poisoned. And she was becoming septic. And she was on a full-time IV. And I had gone to the kitchen. I remember I was talking on the phone to who knows who. But I was fixing her some lunch. And at this point in time, you kind of had to puree her food because the muscles in her throat, she couldn't really swallow very well. She would choke on water. I remember coming in from the kitchen to the living room, and I look at my mom, and she has foam, literally foam, coming out of her nose. And she is this white gray color. And I remember saying to her, Mom, are you okay? And she went to talk to me, and you could just hear it clear down in her chest. And she coughs, and it's like a cough that you can never clear, and foam starts coming out of her mouth too. And I immediately know enough that I know I need to stop her IV that's running, that she doesn't need these fluids right now. And before I called 911, I called her home health nurses, and Mike Dilly and Sherry Dixon were her 2 RNs at that time, and they were just absolutely amazing. I called them, and they come to the house. Then I called the squad. The squad came, and the squad didn't really understand the depth that I took care of my mom, so they're wanting to get her ready to intubate and things, and they're wanting me out of there to get her outside. Long story short, my dad's at work. I call my dad. He meets us at the hospital. Mike and Sherry actually drive me to the hospital. I couldn't ride with Mom and the squad because of the severity, the seriousness of her condition. And we get up there, and these nurses had become a part of our family. They got to see all the bad stuff I did too. And I can just imagine what went through their head, because some of them probably thought, she's so lost. It's like I kind of slipped through the cracks. I was taking care of things, but everybody was so busy. Everybody was, taking care of Mom, working to make sure we had the money to, it sounds selfish, but Whitney's needs weren't exactly being met. But these people had become our family, and when the doctor held a family meeting, to let us know it's time to make a decision, those nurses come in with us. So June 19th, 1998, Trudy Altier Sarley lost her battle to multiple sclerosis. One of the hardest days of my life was knowing that I lost my mother. I spent many nights in the ICU with her. If my mom was in the hospital, you might as well packed my bags and sent me to, because I wasn't leaving her. So then it was just me and my dad, and Dad was trying to be dad and mom, and now his wife is gone, and the woman that had been his secret lover for so long is now his open girlfriend. Within 2 months, I had a whole new family. It was really difficult. I rebelled a lot against it. At 14, I was in an alcohol-related accident. My dad, not that it was his first time getting a call in the middle of the night because my brother had been murdered, but the second time, his daughter, he gets a call and woke up by the police in the middle of the night. His daughter had been in an accident, almost went through a windshield. Everybody had been drinking. We were driving, and it was a bad deal. This time I also got pregnant. My dad made me have an abortion, which I was really resentful of. Not that I needed a baby at 14 years old. I understand where he was coming from, but I also felt like that baby was just going to fix everything that was broken inside me. Which it probably wasn't, but... Okay, sorry about that. I had to pause for a minute. My phone was about to die. Get back on track now. I was doing a lot of things, obviously, that I shouldn't have been. I was 16 for 3 years. I was drinking heavily, very heavily. I was a blackout artist. I mean, good time, let me tell you, but I was a total blackout artist, drunk. At 15, I met my first husband, and I kind of settled down then. I still drank. I loved to drink. That made me feel better. But I think my dad really liked Rick because it settled me down. So for the next few years, things were a little more calm. I wasn't doing such erratic things. I wasn't being a total nutcase, um, per se. I'm sure that my dad just absolutely wanted to string me up by my toes. I know at one point in time he was ready to file unruly charges on me and had everything done, judge's signature and all. All he had to do was sign the papers, and he tried to use that to scare the crap out of me. And of course, it did at the moment, but a week later, I was right back at doing the same thing again. You know, it didn't really faze me too bad. I was pretty hard-headed and difficult, so not much did. When I was 17, there ended up being an issue with... Okay, when I was 17, my dad moved out on me. His girlfriend and I weren't exactly getting along, and my step-grandfather needed taken care of in Philo. So that was kind of like, I feel like, an easy way out, per se, for him to not have to deal with what was going on in the household. So he left Rick and I at the house in Malta, and I started living like an adult at 18 or 17. I was a junior in high school. Yeah, junior. No, I wasn't. I was a senior. I had a job. I liked working. I loved money, even though I didn't know how to spend it very well. I started working another job. I quit school just months before graduation. Yeah, I had a baby at 19. I had Nicholas. That was my first true love. Everything was good. Then I get a call one day that Dad had collapsed, and they didn't think that the squad made it in time. So my dad had a massive heart attack, and he was down without oxygen for too long. So he died from anoxic brain injury. And that's where I fell apart. Nicholas was 9 months old. Just shortly after Dad died was the first time that I was introduced to, not the first time I was introduced to Percocets, but the first time that I realized what Percocets could do for me, because I did have a C-section with Nicholas, so I had him. So, when I had Nicholas and had Percocets for the C-section, it really wasn't any big deal. But what became a big deal is when, after my dad died, I had gotten sick. It wasn't that long after, probably a couple months. He died on June 27th, 2004. I got sick with what I found out was strep throat. I went to First Care when it was still in Genesis Hospital, Bethesda Hospital. And they gave me an antibiotic and Percocets for strep throat. And that's when drugs become a problem. See, my dad always told us kids, whether he meant it or not, he probably didn't. He probably just wanted to scare the crap out of us. But he always said if we were ever on drugs or addicted to drugs, that he would disown us. So I was petrified to even do it. I smoked pot sometimes. Drinking was my thing, and I was a complete butthole when I drank. Like, I would do some really off-the-wall stuff. That's when my hurt and emotions would come out. But anyways, so I'm 20 years old. And I found out that I can shut all this off inside me. So from that point on, I found a way to do Percocets every single day then. You know, this felt good. In my book, I was a better mom. I was a better wife. I was a better cook. I was a better house cleaner. You know, I was a functional addict. So, you know, for a long time, people really didn't even know that I did drugs at all. And in the midst, we threw in some cocaine in there, which became a problem. Cocaine left, pills never did. For the next 16 years, I did opiates every day. Didn't miss a beat. About 6 years ago, 2014, I guess it was. Wow, I guess that's been a few more years. Yeah, 2014. I'm bad with time, and I don't like time going by, really. That's crazy to say that. I've discovered methamphetamines, and I actually started methamphetamines when Danny was in jail for a domestic dispute that we had while on cocaine. Domestic violence was always a problem with Danny and I when drugs were involved. And believe you me, I was never innocent. I was usually an aggressor. I was usually a mouth runner. I usually provoked him one way or another. It was terrible. We lived, especially after I discovered methamphetamines and then I got Danny on it, and we were both on it. Plus I was on Percocets and then heroin. Pure insanity. The things that we did was just unreal. I mean, for instance, one time he took, and I kept opening the door, yelling stuff at him while he was at the garage, slamming it shut and locking it as he was coming towards the house. He gets like this hacksaw or whatever, cuts into the house, then proceeds to get a screwdriver and turns the doorknob around. So now the door locks from the outside and I can't lock him out anymore. That's the kind of stuff that went on. You know, I can laugh about it now. It's really not funny because throughout this, my older two weren't there. They lived with their dad. But my younger two, you know, just because I was a drug addict didn't mean that I took them and dropped them off places. Nope. They were with us 24/7. So they saw everything that went on. All the chaos, all the terrible things that went on, they saw. The trips to jail for Danny become more frequent. And I discovered fentanyl. And that was my demise. That is what about took my life. It took my home, it took my kids, it took my car, it took my soul. It took my morality. It stole everything. I was a slave to that drug. A complete and total slave. It owned me. On February, I would do anything. I mean, there wasn't any. I'd commit crimes. I'd steal. I'd boost. I'd lie. I'd manipulate. And believe you me, I was really good at lying and manipulating. I practiced for many years. Whatever it took to get high, I would do. And finally, I don't even know what, I don't know what changed in me. Danny got out of jail for his final time. And he had decided at this time, you know, when he went into jail on October 7th, 2019, that he was done. That there wasn't going to be any more he was finished. Well, when he got out of jail in January of 2020, I was living in a dope house with another guy. You know, whatever you had to do to survive to get high, right? You know, you did. And it's not that Danny was forgiving of that. He knew that his wife was sick. And he knew that he had 4 kids that was depending on us to get better, not just him. He was petrified. He was scared to death that he was going to get a call that I was gone. It took him about 3 weeks to get me, but finally I agreed to go with him. He came and picked me up at the house that I was staying at in the middle of the country. And for the next month, he jeopardized his sobriety every day. You know, I had done his mom really wrong when I was still in active addiction, so I wasn't allowed at her house. She wanted nothing to do with me at this time, and totally understandable. So in order for Danny to be with me and to help me, we went to another dope house, and he was around people every single day that was doing drugs, and he stayed strong and didn't do them. He just wanted to get me better. That's all he wanted. I remember before he came to get me, he had sent me pictures of me and Weston and Mercedes and me and Maya and me and Nick. And he said, look at this, Whitney, don't you miss this. If you let me come get you, you let me help you, you can have this again. You know, I was avoiding children's services. I was missing visits with my children through children's services, all because I was a slave to this dope. And I was scared. I mean, if I'm doing wrong, you're not going to see me. I'm going to avoid you like the plague, unless you have dope in your hand or you're one of my drug friends. So, something clicked. After he came and got me the next month, I know I said I wanted to get help. I don't know that I really meant it. I was working on getting insurance and things so I could go to detox. No matter what I was going to go, I just didn't know if I was serious, but then it clicked with me, and I was tired and I was exhausted and I didn't want to be high anymore, and I didn't want to be this person anymore. I wanted to have something. I had nothing. I had all my worldly possessions fit in one laundry basket. That's all I had. Everything I had fit in one laundry basket. And yeah, it was sad. It was pathetic. It was ridiculous. So on February 19th, 2020, Danny wasn't able to take me because he had to work. He had just got a brand new job. But one of our good friends, Jeremy Coleman, he drove me and dropped me off at Clearview in New Lexington, and I began my journey then to sobriety. And 7 days, you know, of course 3 days, I thought I had this whipped, you know. I was feeling great, like I was on top of the world. I guess I still wasn't for sure that the sober thing was for me. I still had trouble visioning life without dope. You know, I had been on it for so long. What do people do that don't do drugs? What do sober people do? I couldn't figure that out. I couldn't even think what that might look like. It took until I was at Stanton Villa in New Lex, and a woman who is actually my sponsor today was speaking. It was my first AA meeting, and everything she said was just hitting me in the chest, hitting me in the chest, hitting me in the chest, and I'm sitting there and I am just sobbing. I mean, people's looking at me like probably thought I was totally losing it. But it was that day that it clicked with me. It clicked with me. It hit me. I wanted it. I'm going to get it. I'm chasing it. You know, I had my times that I didn't even know if I believed in God prior to this day. And, you know, they say that you have to turn your will over to God as you know him. Well, the God I know is Jesus Christ. He is my Lord and Savior, and he is my Redeemer. He saved my life. That's my higher power. But at this night, I left this AA meeting and I went back to my room at Stanton Villa, and I'm like, man, I was just an emotional wreck. I'm like, I want this gone. I don't want to ride in this, what I call the druggy buggy. I don't want to ride in this druggy buggy and pass a gas station and be like, oh, I got high in there, or I sold dope there, allegedly. I don't want to think about these things anymore. I don't want these cravings. I don't want these thoughts. I don't want everything to be associated with what I did. So I dropped to my knees and I said, Lord, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if I'm talking to you right. I don't know, but please, I'm begging you to take this burden from me. Take this burden of addiction from me. And if you do, I will live my life for you. And you know, crazy as it seemed, a sinner like me, someone so broken, so dirty, so far gone, he answered. He answered my prayers. And thanks to the program of NA, an amazing sponsor, my Lord and Savior, my husband, my wonderful family,